MMA indeed, and there's lots of MMA to get excited for. Tomorrow, a dual preview show here on MMAfighting.com. Of course, you got Bellator 263, the highly anticipated finale of the featherweight Grand Prix that has been going on for around 2 years or so. Patricio Pitbull defends his featherweight title against AJ McKee in the main event in Inglewood, California. $1 million on the line. And then over in Las Vegas, not that far away, in the nearly empty UFC Apex, a middleweight bout between Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland will headline the UFC's offering. We have a lot to discuss here as we welcome you to this dual preview show here on MMAfighting.com. I will tell you, I have no idea who's on this with me because we just hit record. I jumped on the page a few minutes late. I heard AK's voice, so we'll introduce AK. Hello, AK.
I am here. Yes, I was here for the weigh-ins today, and I am back, people. I'm back and ready to fire away. Double barrel Bellator UFC. Let's go.
That's right. Is Jose here?
Yep.
Jose is here. Hello, Jose. Are you surprised the Red Sox made like one minor move today?
I don't want to talk about it.
There you go. And of course, on the ones and twos, the man who is representing MMA fighting in Inglewood, California at Bellator 263 all week long, Mr. Casey Leydon. How are you, Casey? How is how would you describe the the ambiance in the fabulous forum?
It's great. It was fun. It was good. Got to see Mauro Ronaldo, talk to him a little bit, talk some pro wrestling with him. It was good. Talked to Gareth Davies, and so it was good. I saw a little kerfluffle at the at the press conference, and it was good times. Back in the groove of things. Gonna be a big show tomorrow. Yeah, so we're good. Everything's fun.
Are you wearing a Gremlins 2?
Yeah.
Long sleeve tee? Nice. Yeah. Well played. You always come out with
a new batch.
Money shirts. A new batch. There you go. Where do you gentlemen want to, where we start? We're going to start with Bellator, right? Since that's yeah. Why don't we start with Bellator? I mean,
it's a real card.
Listen, the UFC is
it's a card.
Whatever's left of this UFC card is a card, but there is no comparison here. There is no, if you can only watch one, what are you watching? Because the answer is going to be Bellator. Bellator 263. Patricio Pitbull versus AJ McKee. Jose, I mean, we are both longtime pro wrestling fans, and oftentimes MMA falls short in build-ups and things working out the way they're supposed to. But in this case, it took a couple of years to get here, but here we are. Everything we all wanted, the promotion, the fans, the media, we got the fight we wanted. I think the build has been tremendous. So we are a little over 24 hours away from this fight actually happening. How excited are you for this now that we're knocking on the door of it?
Oh, I'm very excited. The fact that this is the finals of the Grand Prix is what, to put into pro wrestling terms, imagine if the Brawl for All worked out and it wasn't Bart Gunn that won. This is what Bellator wanted. This didn't backfire on them. No one got hurt. If anything, the pandemic affected everyone in the world negatively, but it helped Bellator out because remember, AJ McKee had that knee injury. The fact that all these fights were postponed let him get healthy, and now we're here with what I think is the biggest fight in Bellator history in the main event for $1 million for the belt, for the two homegrown talents, essentially. So, yeah, 10 out of 10 main event all around. I said for a long time this is one of my 3 fights to watch for of the entire summer, not just the UFC. I always like to include this because I know there are people out there that just watch the UFC. I don't know. I have yet to meet anyone that just watches Bellator. I'm curious if those people exist, but of course there's a lot of people that only watch the UFC. So I've been waving this flag for quite a bit. So yeah, very excited. Last week was an 11 out of 10 main event. This is an 11 out of 10 main event in Bellator. So back-to-back fight weeks with 2 different promotions with absolutely stellar main events.
Where's your head at, AK? Is your excitement level at the same levels as Jose right now? Or are you how would you describe how you're feeling a day away from this big fight?
Exactly equal. I've calibrated my excitement levels to be the same as Jose's. When it ebbs, mine ebbs. When it rises, mine rises. Our excitement levels are right here. He's right though. We got exactly the final you would want. I'm just looking at the tournament bracket now, though. It's like there's actually like so many. I feel like there's a lot of good outcomes they could have had. I feel like what was great about this tournament was, yes, we all wanted Pitbull and McKee to fight, They were going to fight someday anyway, but how cool would it have been for them to be the guys to come through the tournament? But like, I thought Juan Archuleta could have been a spoiler early on. I thought AJ had a pretty good route, but I mean, Darren Caldwell, former champion. Adam Boritz, I thought was going to beat Caldwell, actually. So that's a guy who I thought was going to shake things up. Emmanuel Sanchez was in there. It was just, it was such a well-stacked, well-thought-out tournament from beginning to end. And yes, and they got the ending they wanted, but I also feel like a lot of guys got to shine. A lot of guys benefited just from being associated with the tournament. So it was awesome. There was a lot of whinging at the beginning. People saying like, "Oh, how long is this tournament going to take?" And I think it shows that Bellator had the right idea doing the field the way they did. The selection process was awesome when they did the guys get to pick who they fight in the next round. Oh, please Bellator, keep doing that for future Grand Prix. And if the UFC ever does a tournament, or if any other promotions do tournaments, do stuff like that. So there was so much good, and I hope there's a way sort of to conveniently go back and watch some of the highlights and just how this tournament was constructed, because it's just an amazing example of how to do it.
Casey, what have you made of Patricio Pitbull's demeanor over the last 48 hours? Because obviously he's a pretty intense guy. The guy's got an incredible resume. He's a 2-division champion, very confident heading into this fight. But we've seen like the look in his eye since the kerfuffle, if you will, at the press conference. We saw it at the weigh-ins, at the final stare down. I mean, that man didn't even blink. He is laser focused on tomorrow. He wants to hurt AJ McKee. Have you noticed that as well? Like, did you notice that in the arena? Like, his demeanor is just seems to be in a different place over these last 24 hours or so compared to what it had been in the previous several weeks heading into this fight.
Pitbull just looks like I'm sure if you're close to him, like his family, his best friends, he's a fun guy to hang out with. But man, he's intimidating. That's all. I was just saying. If I just like, I can't. He's not a fighter I want to walk up to and just go, "Hey, how you doing, man? How's your wake up going? You have a good training camp?" He'll just give me that look, like, yeah, whatever. And that's what I love about him. Like I was talking to Esther about this. Is McKee in Pitbull's head or whatever? Is he gonna fight more emotional? Is that a good thing and a bad thing? It's like I think Pitbull is so dang experienced that I don't think it matters. I think this is just he's just a high level prize fighter, and when it's fight week, he just has this he has that look in his eyes, and he's just a scary dude. And I mean, I know AJ McKee he's a confident dude, man, but like, I just can't wait when they actually face off and actually start throwing punches at each other, because I honestly just don't know what's going to happen, and that's very exciting. I love this fight.
Jose, we talked about this on Between the Links, like what's better for business, if Patricio Pitbull wins or if AJ McKee wins, and I think it's pretty much unanimous that AJ McKee winning is better for business because it opens a lot more doors. We get fresh matchups. You could do the rematch with Pitbull, maybe even set up a trilogy down the line, depending on how the second fight goes. And I know the way you think, we have to see the first fight play out first. But if Patricio Pitbull wins this fight on Saturday, like what else is there for him to do in Bellator? Like, I know there's different contenders at 155. He hasn't fought yet. The lightweight division looks vastly different than it did 2 years ago before this featherweight Grand Prix starts. But like, what other challenges awaits this man at this point if he beats AJ McKee?
If he beats AJ McKee, a lightweight Grand Prix? Like, have they done a 155 Grand Prix? They've done pretty much every other weight class. So from one Grand Prix right into another, like we said a million times, you can't argue with the tournament. So let's just take out all this hypothetical matchmaking out of the equation and toss him in another tournament, because then like would Pedro Carvalho ever have fought Patricio Pitbull at that point in his career unless they were in a tournament? Probably not. But the fact that they did, it was just another highlight reel finish for Patricio, and his aura only grew more. Sometimes you need those kind of fights. So once this light heavyweight, well, first of all, let Patricio Pitbull take some time off. He had that, like, because let's not forget, he weighed in and faced off to fight Pedro Carvalho. And then the fight was canceled, 5 hours later. They didn't even get to fight. And they had to wait like a whole year before they got to fight. They actually got to fight in that empty arena. So let's, wait to see how the world looks, because there's a lot of new variants to this virus that's happening right now. So if they can't have crowds and so on and so forth in certain in certain markets, then that might change a lot of plans. Because isn't Bellator supposed to go to London right now? That might not happen in October if I'm remembering that timetable correctly. So first, give Patricio Pitbull some time off. Maybe the lightweight or featherweight title picture kind of corrects itself, or just throw him into another tournament, and then we could take all this hypothetical matchmaking onto the next one out of the equation and have him fight next man up, next man up, next man up.
AK, how important is it for Bellator for this event to just be phenomenal? Like, it has to be really, really good, right? They have a big opportunity. They have the chance. I mean, they're taking a lot of eyeballs. There's no doubt about it. The UFC's card is a card. It's the go-home show for UFC 265, but okay, main event. It's interesting, but it's not a fight that you would typically see on a UFC card as the main event. So how important is tomorrow night for Bellator? Not just because of this fight delivering, but some of these prospects they're trying to build up. Like, how important is it for Bellator to just put on a knockdown, drag out show tomorrow?
First off, tip of the cap to Jose for plugging onto the next one, our matchmaking show. Jose, I really appreciate that. Everyone comes out Sundays after cards. Sunday after cards, check that. While you're a fine podcaster, listen to. It's super important. I mean, I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to Bellator's sort of Twitter account or the social media. They have been retweeting and tweeting every single little thing that has been written about this matchup, and understandably so. It's the biggest fight again in history there, and there's names on the card that they're also building to the future. And also there's, like you said, there's a trickle down effect here where, yes, the main event is the obvious attraction, but there's so many other guys that could be major players. I love that they brought in Mads Burnell. I think he's such an exciting fighter, amazing submission fighter. Usman Nurmagomedov, Islam Mamedov. If you just go up and down, Vanessa Porto is someone who should be competing for that flyweight title eventually. Kaysan Magomed Sharipov, the brother of Zabit. It's a lot of showcase potential. How many amazing back and forth wars are there going to be? I'm not sure. That's a whole different question. But showcase potential is here to make stars. We kind of saw this, Mike, with BKFC 19. It was 19, right? The one you just covered, right?
Yes.
Taylor Starling and Britton Hart. Britton Hart already was the talk of the town after the Paige Van Zandt fight. But her and Taylor Starling came out of, and maybe even Rachel Ostovich came out of that card like $1 million. Was there a classic fight in that card? I don't know, mate. But there was a lot of star power, and this Bellator card has kind of the same potential. I'm not saying it's going to make anyone a household name overnight, but just being associated with this card, this huge fight that we have been building up for so long, the Bellator has been giving its just due. It can do a lot for everyone. So it does have to deliver. I think even if the main event delivers, the card will be remembered, but it won't be create this kind of sea change that I think Bellator is hoping for a little bit. I have to ask you guys, because in Canada, Bellator doesn't have a cable deal right now with any network. So we get everything for free on YouTube. So it's super convenient for us to watch Bellator. I know a lot of people are actually kind of excited they don't have a TV deal yet. You guys have it on Showtime in the US. What's the reach of Showtime in the US? Is it everyone in everybody's household? I have no idea.
Nope.
It's the second biggest premium cable network. It's like HBO. And in terms of sports, like HBO doesn't even do boxing anymore, so Showtime Boxing has taken that over, and Showtime Boxing is doing great. I think Showtime is hoping that Showtime MMA, Showtime Bellator will eventually kind of be in that same level as the Showtime Boxing series. Like Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, that's Showtime Boxing. Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul, that was all Showtime Boxing. So it's all under Showtime. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what Showtime has done with the product from a production standpoint. Like, it just being on Showtime just makes it feel bigger. I feel like some of the promos they've done makes it feel bigger. Just like the overall introduction of Bellator to Showtime, like that first promotional package heading into that first main card, kind of the throwback to Strikeforce was amazing. And I think they're doing what they can to try to make this as big as possible. So
real quick, a kind of a forgotten aspect about this whole card is, this is the first time Bellator is going to have a full crowd in the Forum.
Yes.
So this is a big deal. So we're going to have this Apex card with like 4 fans or whatever. And then we should have, and it's when I looked at ticket sales, I mean, it seems like it's gonna be a pretty good house, full of house full of fans, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's
right.
That's a phrase.
That's right. Okay.
Those are words.
It should be a pretty full house coming Saturday night, and if it's a hot crowd, which I feel usually the Forum is usually for Bellator cards, that's gonna really give it that big event feeling. I think that's what's important for Bellator tomorrow night. Not necessarily the outcome of the fights, but more that it needs to feel big. It needs to feel like this is the sporting event that you need to watch Saturday night. That's what I think is the most important thing for Bellator to come across.
Yeah, it really does make a difference.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've kind of joked about like, oh man, some of those, the UFC Apex shows are refreshing, and but if we saw with like pro wrestling, you've seen like kind of pro wrestling shows now that have a crowd now compared to how they were to the pandemic. The energy is so different, and it goes from feeling very low rent and carny, I mean, which it always will be pro wrestling, but to again feel like this very real thing when you tune in your TV and see all these people screaming. So hopefully we get the same effect. You're right with Bellator 263 on Saturday, because that will be really exciting for people maybe who haven't watched Bellator in a long time to come back and be like, wow, this is a big deal. And Mike, I want to say one thing about them being on Showtime. How dare you suggest that it's more prestigious than on Paramount Network? I miss seeing the same commercial for Bar Rescue every friggin' time, or Tattoo Wars. That to me says big fight feel. So I don't appreciate that little swipe at Paramount Network.
And Cops, don't forget about Cops. It was perfect.
Yeah. Oh, what a lead in.
Bellator led in the Cops perfectly. That's why Cops had great ratings.
Lead in and lead out.
We'll go to pick on the main event in a minute, Casey. But one of the big points of contention on BTL yesterday was this card as a whole, especially the main card. Like, did Bellator book this card correctly? I mean, the main event is great. All eyeballs are on it. But there are arguments that, I mean, look, I like the Sanchez Burnell fight. I think it's a good scrap. Premise Mamedov is interesting. Nurmagomedov is a heavy favorite for a reason against Manny Murrow. Goichi Yamauchi versus Chris Gonzalez is a nice fight. You get the prospect versus the veteran. So do you feel like the main card was constructed right? Or should they have tried to stack the deck a little more?
Is it for me?
For you, Casey.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's okay.
Selfishly, yeah, I want one more kind of big name fight on here. Like I don't know, I can name like Lorenz Larkin versus whoever I'm missing a name. I can't think of it. But I feel like it's missing a good co-main event with more of an established name. But I understand what they're doing here. It's $1 million check. There's a lot of money that's got to be paid out for these fighters, especially winning the tournament. So, it's just the finances. I get it. But this is going to be, if UFC, Bellator and Showtime really pushes that could be like all your next big stars, which I feel like with all these, like this kind of Russian invasion on this card, if it really plays out the way it could go, it could be very big for Bellator. It could be a bust too. But originally, when they had Magomedov, I was super looking forward to that fight, so that's a big bummer. But even if he was on that card, he still isn't like a name. It's just more of like the hardcore of hardcore fans who are interested in him. But yeah, selfishly, I wish I had one more fight, but it's a main event card. It's a one fight. It's truly a one fight card, and that's okay. That's okay. It's just UFC's doing that next week. Kind of they're like their Conor cards. They're kind of like, if Conor fell out of that Dustin fight, then it's not really a pay-per-view, so it's risky doing a one-fight card, but I think this one's okay.
All right. We got Patricio Pitbull, -115 favorite. Comeback on AJ McKee is -105, so it's basically a flip of the coin here, Jose.
Wow.
Who walks out of the Forum with $1 million and the Bellator featherweight title tomorrow night?
I've said it a million times, so I'll say it again. Anytime you have a coin flip fight, which I think we all agree this is a coin flip fight, the weight of the belt is the one that tilts the scale towards one specific fighter. So Patricio Pitbull has looked pretty unbeatable at 145. AJ McKee has been unbeatable at 145. I don't know. This is like Casey said. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with this fight. It is same thing as last week. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen in this fight, and I just looked for the little things like Corey Sandhagen was more active than TJ Dillashaw, so I picked Corey Sandhagen to win, and that fight was razor thin, and TJ Dillashaw won. So for all we know, we could have another very close fight, but the weight of the belt is what tips the scales for me. So I'm going to say Patricio Pitbull. Not going to pick away because I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. And to answer your previous question, Bellator should have done a lot better with this card. They should put the rest of the featherweight Grand Prix minus Juan Archuleta on this card. Just fill it up with featherweights. You know, they kicked it off like that, right? Wasn't like Patricio Pitbull and Archuleta was the co-main event. It's like Mousasi and Machida, right? And then the rest of the featherweights were on that card. Should have closed it out that way too. Would have been fun to have like Boric and Corral. Well, Corral's 135, or could have done like, you know, all the 145ers on the main card. And then I think Jed said it yesterday. The main card is fun, but it's more of a prelim card. But so I wish they loaded it up with the rest of the featherweights. Go out with a bang. Finish the tournament with everyone.
When is that? Yeah, because they're doing a number one contender fight. Oh, that's the South Dakota card on August 20th.
Right,
Adam Boyd versus
right?
JJ Wilson is a number one contender fight, but not
why? Why is that in South Dakota? You know, it's like putting James Gallagher in South Dakota. It was weird. Like imagine like this card that we have tomorrow. Imagine if Boric and JJ was the co-main event, no one contender. You could have the stare down at the end if that's what they want to do. Would have been a fun time all around, but that makes too much sense.
I feel like we have this conversation a lot, even with UFC cards, you know, too. Like it's like, oh, why isn't this card? You know,
Bellator has like in the quarantine or the pandemic era. I feel like all of Bellator cards have been one fight cards. There's never been like outside of that Mousasi Machida card. Like there's never really been like, whoa, this card has like 6 good fights on it.
Well, I mean,
that card that was headlined by Pettis and Archuleta was pretty loaded. That was pretty good card.
Yeah. That was a good card.
I mean, they lost. They lost Romero,
was that their first Showtime card?
The Romero Johnson? No, the second one.
Yeah, that fight card ruled.
That was a really good one. Losing Romero kind of sucked, but it's still really good. AK, your thoughts? Who gets it done tomorrow night?
I'm classically one of the slowest to get on like. To talk as a human being, obviously, first. Yes. I'm typically one of the when I get excited, you guys know I can talk too fast. I'm typically one of the slowest to kind of jump on to the next thing that's coming along. I usually stick with champions, and that's not going to be the case here. I am picking AJ McKee win. He's the future. He's the present. Whatever cliche you want to use. He's done I was kind of slow. I was actually slow getting the AJ McKee bandwagon for the longest time, and Bellator built him up the right way, man. Gave him the right opponents, the right time. They knew clearly very in touch with him in his camp and how he's coming along. You could not build a prospect, a contender, a future champion better than they have done with AJ McKee. It's such a beautiful story, and I think it comes to a head on Saturday. And I'll go big with this prediction too. I think McKee's going to finish him. I think he becomes the first fighter to actually finish Pitbull outside of an injury, the freak injury he had. I think he finishes him, and he finishes him in such a way in like round 1 or round 2 that it doesn't hurt Pitbull. It'll be like a strike that'll not out of nowhere, but it'll be like a very sudden thing, definitive stoppage, but enough for us to kind of wonder, did Pitbull, did he just get caught? And we need to see these guys run it back, whether it's for the lightweight title or immediate rematch at featherweight. So I think it'll be McKee with the win, and I think it'll be a really, really good moment for Bellator, both because of McKee ascending to the top, and it will continue. This will be the continuation, not the ending of this feud with Pitbull.
Casey?
This fight is so difficult to figure out because, like, in my mind, I can't see either guy. They've been so dominant for so long. I know AJ hasn't had the same level of competition, but the people they put in front of him, he just walks right through them like nothing. The Darren Caldwell was like one of the most impressive submission wins and dominating wins I've seen in recent memory. Man. I think Pitbull's gonna do it. I think Pitbull's gonna get he's gonna clip AJ. But I think it's gonna be like what I think, kind of the same thing what AK said. I think it's gonna be a bad loss for McKee, where he's gonna get knocked out and get clipped or something. But it's gonna be one of those, like, you know what though, in a year and a half, AJ can win this. So I just think I don't want to say it's too early for AJ McKee, but I just think Pitbull is that good right now and that experienced in big fights. And I can't go against the experience of Pitbull, and him just being consistent, and him just being in his athletic and fighting prime right now. And yeah. But man, I try to envision it. I can't see AJ McKee just like but I don't know. It's gonna be. I'm hoping it's a close fight, but I feel like it's not gonna be. I feel like it's gonna be one-way traffic. Even though I'm so excited for it, I just think it's gonna be one-way traffic once that one fighter gets the edge on the other guy. But I'm hoping for a great fight.
I think Pitbull's gonna win, and I think he's gonna do it. I don't know if convincingly is the word, but I think McKee's gonna have a really strong start in this fight. I think he's gonna. This is gonna be reminiscent to like Patchy Mix versus Juan Archuleta. It's gonna be something like that, where like McKee will come out early, establish a lead, and then just the overall experience of Pitbull is just gonna shine through. Championship rounds, just being in that fire. Like, I think he's been there before. I just think he has more ways to win this fight. I just think he's seen it all. He's done it all. And, it's such a cliched thing in MMA that there's levels to this game. And I'm not saying AJ McKee isn't a high level fighter, but I don't know. And until I see AJ McKee beat a guy like Patricio Pitbull, I'm not confident saying that he can. I just don't know. Like, Darren Caldwell's a good fighter, but we saw against Leandro Higo, he's not the same guy he was a couple of years back when he was on this road to becoming a 2-division champion. He's just not the same guy. Patricio Pitbull is that dude. He is that guy. So while Jed Meshew when PTL had said that Patricio Pitbull was just going to wipe the floor with him, I don't know if that's the case, but I think when this fight is over, it's going to be pretty clear that Patricio Pitbull is the better fighter. So he gets it done. I'll say he wins by decision. I think McKee will make it to the final bell, but I think when it's over, there'll be no doubt that Pitbull won the fight.
Mike, can I ask how you guys, how high? I want to plug, of course, our global rankings. This will be the number 3 featherweight in the MMAfighting.com global rankings of Patricio Pitbull, and the number 6 featherweight in AJ McKee. Guys, if AJ McKee wins, how high does he go? How high do you think he goes in your rankings? Number 1? Because I assume some.
Are you crazy?
Oh no, none of us. Okay, no, I'm just checking. So none of us had Pitbull number 1. Okay, but
I have Pitbull at the highest. I have Pitbull at number 2.
Okay. Where does AJ go?
Jed has Pitbull at number 3. So
okay, where does AJ go if he beats him?
If it's a dominant victory, actually any victory. Crap. I would put, if AJ can roll through Pitbull. Yeah, I would have him in my list, the second best featherweight in the world. To me, it's impossible to be. I have Max Holloway number 1. It's just going to be. There's nothing they can do because they're not fighting each other. So I just can't put anyone over Max right now. In my rankings, but yeah, if AJ does it at the age of 22? How old is AJ? 23, 24, whatever he is.
He's 7, isn't he?
Oh, is that old? I'm sorry.
Still, no, old.
Old, yeah. How old is he? How old is he actually? I gotta see.
26. Just turned 26.
Okay, 26. Sorry, not that. I think he started. Yeah, at the age of 26. And I still think he's a couple years from that prime. AJ McKee, if he does it this Saturday, yeah, he's the second best featherweight in the entire world.
Wow, he would bump the UFC champion down to third. Dana White is not going to be happy about that, Casey. I don't think Dana White would approve of this ranking.
Oh no!
How dare you?
You know what? I was at the forum today at the weigh-ins, and when I was leaving, I'm walking down the hallway, and I was like, "Oh, this is the hallway that Dana White literally pulled my credentials from me." It's like, "Oh, I love that place."
Jesus.
Hey, you brought Dana White up, man. I didn't bring it up.
No, you're right. That was on me.
Yeah.
Damn it, AK. Yeah, I think put him at 3 or 4 is probably where I would put him. I think Volkanovski and Holloway are still ahead of him, no matter at this point. But still, being number 3 on that list in that division is pretty damn good.
yeah. Being number 3 on anyone's list outside the UFC it's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Well,
And not to mention,
absolutely.
I would like if you put Pitbull or AJ in there with either Volkanovski or Holloway, I would expect a competitive fight.
Of course.
Like that's the level
Yeah.
these guys are at now. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing tells me, oh, Volkanovski or Holloway would kill either of these guys. Like, no, man.
No, not at all.
It's a competitive fight. It's a competitive fight.
All right, so that's Bellator. We'll go to questions if you guys want to talk Bellator in a few minutes, but UFC Vegas 33 is also going down tomorrow. We are down to 11 fights. We lost 2 more fights today. We lost Nico Montano versus Yanan Wu because Nico Montano missed weight by 7 pounds for a bantamweight fight.
Real quick, was that
did
the commission cancel it, or did did her opponent not accept the fight? Just out of curiosity.
Oh yeah, I don't think the commission would allow that fight to happen.
Thing? Okay, I'm just wondering.
Yeah. So that fight's off. We also found out that Ronnie Lawrence versus Trevin Jones is off as well. Ronnie Lawrence, from what I was told via his manager, Matt Weibel from First Round Management, Ronnie stepped on the scale in his room, made weight, was on his way down to weigh in, and his whole body just started cramping to the point where he couldn't walk anymore. So he was sent to the hospital. He's doing better, and that's why that fight is no longer happening. So wish the best for him. Trevin Jones, what a string of bad luck it has been for this guy. It's just been crazy. Like different opponents, different shuffle ups. Just his UFC career has been very interesting thus far in 2021. From the Timur Valiev win to getting the win overturned to a no contest because of marijuana, which is now okay in Nevada. It's just a wild run. So hopefully he gets rebooked sooner rather than later and we can see him fight because second round Trevin Jones is a bad man. So we're down to 11 fights. Let's start with this main event. We got Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland. Good matchup. I think it's a fine fight. It's the fight that should be made at this point, especially after what happened with Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman. Hall wanted to get back on the horse quickly, and he gets Sean Strickland in the main event spot. So where would you gauge your excitement levels for this fight, Jose? Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland, 5 potential rounds of middleweight action.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 6, 7. Like I like Uriah Hall, the fighter.
7.
He's not a very. No, that's not fair. He's been a lot better with the media in recent memory. Your interview with him was one of the better ones that I've just interviews in general about the mental health of fighters. So. The fact that he has been one of the proponents of mental health in the world of combat sports, and as everyone knows, that seems to be prevalent in the world of all of sports right now. We don't have to get into it because no one cares about our opinions on about what's happening there. But so Uriah Hall, I'm excited to see fight. He's been talking about fighting Israel Adesanya for a very long time, and he's got me at least interested in that fight. It's a bummer he didn't get to fight Romero or Jacare. It wasn't his fault. Both of his opponents fell out, and then. I feel bad that he didn't really get to have a showcase fight against Chris Weidman because that fight lasted maybe 30 seconds. If that is the first fighter in UFC history to win a fight without throwing a single punch. So I'm curious how he looks because we keep hearing this is the new and improved Uriah Hall since joining Forest MMA, but we haven't had a lot of opportunities to see that. Yes, he knocked out Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva's on the wrong side of 40, but then he went and pieced up Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So I think that performance in Anderson's performance in his boxing match makes Uriah Hall's win that much more impressive. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, if he gets, how well will that age?" I think it's actually aged pretty well. And then I've picked Sean Strickland to lose. I think his last 4 fights, and he's proven me wrong in every single one. Brendan Allen, I think, is no joke. Christoph Jocko is no joke. And Jack Marshman has had more fist fights than almost anyone at 185 pounds. And Sean Strickland has not broken a sweat in any of those. So 6, I guess. I'm surprised this fight is happening. I thought Uriah Hall would have a bigger name moving forward. But if he just wanted a quick turnaround, another paycheck and 5 rounds under his belt, all power to the man. Sean Strickland, I think, is not charismatic's not the word. Talks a lot. His Instagram is, I guess some people find it interesting. I personally don't, but it talks a lot during a fight. And I think Sean Strickland fighting in an Apex is one of the few fighters that I would prefer seeing him fight in front of no one than 30,000 people because that dude doesn't stop talking the entire time, even talks to the commentary, even talks to his opponent's coaches, even talks to the people working the UFC event. So keep him in front of nobody because I want to hear what he says. So, but this is a really good co-main event for Bellator 263. I'll say that.
That's a great way of looking at this. Who needs this one more, AK? I mean, I don't know if we're talking about like next title challengers coming out of this one, but we get two guys, different paths right now. I mean, they're rankings wise, they're neck and neck, but Uriah Hall has, been, since he was on The Ultimate Fighter, this was the guy. Like, he's a future title challenger. He's got to beat Sean Strickland if he wants to keep that moniker, right? And then for Sean, he's looked great since going back up to 185. So who needs this one more, in your opinion?
To the first question that you asked, Jose, this is my level of excitement. 9 out of you see what I did there? You see, 9 out of 10.
A swerve.
I'm super jazzed for this fight.
Wait, what did you give last week's main event? What was last week's main event?
You're dumb.
TJ Dillashaw. 10 out of 10.
So this is only 10% less excitement.
This is like just below.
Okay, just double checking.
I mean, if I could go higher than 10 for Dillashaw and Sandhagen, I would have gone higher than I
went higher than 10. I said 11.
That's not how math works. So I cannot do that. But
it does. It does in the United States. I don't know about the metrics.
We don't have it. We can't do that. We literally can't do that. The Uriah Hall story will never not be fascinating for me. The bizarre arc of his career. So this kind of ties into Mike's question he just presented. But Sean Strickland's fights always, but I mean, definitely at 185, super exciting. Without a weight cut, he has all this energy. He's nonstop fighting, nonstop talking. He's going to be super aggressive. We know Uriah Hall is this amazingly patient counter fighter, ready to explode at any moment. It's a great contrast. I don't think, again, I'm being very optimistic, I don't think we get one of those like staring contests. I do think Sean Strickland will push the pace, which could lead to a spectacular finish, could lead to a good back and forth fight. I don't know. So I do think that Uriah Hall needs the win more. He's a bit older. I don't know how this, and it just feels like, to me, this is the run. Like, this is the run. We've seen him go on streaks before. We see him have success against big names before, when he beat Mousasi the first time they fought. And yes, it kind of teased us. We had these moments where like, okay, he looks like a contender now. But this feels like a real run of sustained success. It feels like he's at peace with with being a UFC fighter, with having to deal with the media, with all this, like the most he has been ever since he's come up to this level. I'm really a believer. So I'm sort of obviously giving away my pick here, but not just who I think will win, but I do think he needs the win more. Sean Strickland has almost been found money for the UFC. He's just become this contender at 185 almost out of nowhere. I don't know if they expected it, but he just came out kicking ass and just knocking off people left and right in these exciting fights. So I think there's a lot of time for him to maybe lose this one and then start another run. Uriah Hall, if he doesn't get past Sean Strickland, this, at least for me, this might be the last time I say that I'm very confident that he is a guy who could fight for a UFC title.
Casey, right now the betting lines have Sean Strickland -200 and the comeback on Uriah Hall +170. Do you agree with those lines? And with those lines, what are your thoughts on the actual fight between these two gentlemen tomorrow night?
-200 for Sean Strickland. Wow. That's interesting. Uriah Hall needs this win. He has to win this fight. He's what, 36, 37. I mean, this is like his third or fourth fight before this now. Man, Uriah Hall. His story is so weird. It's so weird. But man, I haven't really thought very much of this fight, to be honest. I like Sean Strickland in a kind of, I like Sean Strickland, like, when you're on the freeway, you see a car wreck, you're like, you know what, I will slow down and back up all the traffic behind me just to see this wreck. So that's why when I think of Sean Strickland, he's just a MMA fighter bro who he just puts his camera up and does Instagram live videos all the time, and it's just like, wow, you said that out loud, cool. You're a unique individual, and that's why I think of most high level fighters, like to fight at this level for what they make and how much it just consumes their life. Like, yeah, you got to be just an off individual, and Sean Strickland kind of fits that mold, and Uriah Hall to the same extent, just on the other end. But the actual fight itself, I think this fight could kind of suck. I think it could be Strickland just moving forward. He moves forward very, very strategically. I like the way he moves forward. He doesn't walk into shots. He's actually very controlled in his output moving forward. But Uriah Hall, yeah, it could be a staring contest for a while. But with 5 rounds, we might go like 20 minutes of kind of whatever fighting, then get 1 minute of explosion for like, oh, was that worth it? That was a cool knockout. 22 minutes into a fight. But it's, what is it? I don't know. I'm just not really into this fight. It's just, to me, it's just a fight. I don't think either guy's really title contenders, and this feels like a weird main event. It feels just like a fight that should be booked. It's not a fight I really put too much thought into.
It's a fight.
It's a fight, yeah, and that's when you have so many cards. That's what's gonna happen every dozen fight nights. It's like, oh, this is literally just a fight that this just happens to be the last fight of the night. To me.
Anyway, raise your hand if you're picking Uriah Hall to win tomorrow.
I think a lot of people listen to this on audio, so I'm going to say 3 of us are picking Uriah Hall to win.
Yes, three out of 4.
Yeah.
But not Casey.
I was gonna say we should let them guess who.
Yeah, yeah.
Notice that this man does not have his hand up.
Yeah.
Why? Why Sean? Why Sean Strickland?
I just think defensively he doesn't get hit with big shots. I think he moves forward very well, and I think that's gonna frustrate Uriah Hall, and where he just won't have the power Sean Strickland's a tough dude, that's for sure, and I don't think he's gonna have generate enough power to really hurt Strickland moving backwards. And I think Strickland is pretty. He's very defensive when he moves forward and just kind of peppers, jabs and crosses. So I just think it's gonna be kind of 25 minutes of that. Actually, I just don't think it's gonna be that great a fight. But I'm picking Strickland by kind of a I don't want to say lackluster, but workmanlike decision.
There you go. Co-main event is Kyung Ho Kang versus Ronnie Yaya. We got Cheyenne Bays versus Gloria De Paula. Nicholas Stolze versus Jared Gooden. Gooden took this fight on just a few days' notice, and then
how did Cheyenne Bays and Gloria De Paula end up on the main card as opposed to Jinyu Fry and Ashley Yoder? Because Jinyu Fry beat.
They like Cheyenne Bays. They see something in her. Dana White sees something in her.
Yeah,
and Gloria De Paula is also very talented. But Jinyu Fry beat Gloria De Paula, and both of those fighters and Cheyenne Bays is also coming off a loss. How's this fair? How's this fair to Jinyu Fry and Ashley Yoder? Ashley Yoder also coming a loss, in fairness, but Jinyu Fry beat Gloria De Paula, and now she's buried in the prelims. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I mean, in a card like this, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Maybe I think you can make an argument that I think Jinyu Fry and Ashley Yoder are probably happy. They get their night done quickly. It'll be in the afternoon there, and they can enjoy the Vegas nightlife with masks on.
Yeah, get home, watch the rest of the Bellator fights.
That's right.
I have a feeling that UFC PR and specifically the UFC PR only brings the main card to media day, and Cheyenne Bays is a much more interesting media day interview than either Jinyu Fry or Ashley Yoder.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Better fighter, probably. Better fighter to be determined, but Cheyenne Bays talks a lot of greasiness, and I think she had a lot of questions people wanted answers to from her last fight.
Yeah, and Bays obviously was a big story even after the loss to Montserrat Ruiz with the post-fight antics. Yes. So she's definitely someone fans want to hear more from. So
rest of that card, Orion Cosy makes his UFC debut. He takes on Phil Rowe, who missed weight, so he gets 20% of Phil Rowe's purse. Jinyu Fry versus Ashley Yoder. Yoder the favorite in that one. Kai Kamaka versus Danny Chavez should be a lot of fun. Rafa Garcia is back against Chris Grutzmacher And Colin Anglin,
Now-
another Contender Series contract winner, will make his UFC debut
Now-
against Melsik Baghdasaryan.
Is the Ryan Benoit fight is on the main card?
Yes.
Now
is it?
that should be your question. Why is Jinyu Fry and Ashley Yoder on the prelims, and that is above them? Ryan Benoit.
Hold on.
It's
I
not.
stand corrected.
It is
I
not
see
on-
two
it's on
different
the
cards. Oh,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
God!
So
I see two different
second
cards.
prelim fight.
Okay,
It should
let's go
be
by
because
each.
isn't Ryan Benoit's opponent like 2-3 or 3-3 or something like that?
3-3, 3-3,
Yeah.
0-2 in the UFC. He's one of the stranger
Okay.
stories
Wait, how is
to make it to the UFC for sure.
who is Ryan Benoit fighting? Who is this? I don't know.
Zabrut- He went 3-0 in Bellator, and then came to the UFC and has not had the same success he had in
So
Bellator.
you could say he's the antithesis of Michael Chandler.
Sure, yeah, sure. So it looks like it's only a 5-fight main card. I think.
It is.
Okay, cool.
You know what that means? We're gonna get lots of UFC 265 promotional packages.
Oh baby,
Tons of them. Tons.
Oh, baby.
So many. And there you go. Let's go to the peeps for a few moments. Because are we gonna do a dual Q&A tomorrow? Is that how we're doing this?
Oh,
That's tomorrow. I haven't thought about that yet.
that's so long. That's so far away.
Well, I don't even know when
wait,
the
so
TBD.
What?
UFC.
Hit me up on
UFC
Slack. We'll
prelim-
figure it out. Yeah.
UFC prelims start at 6. UFC prelims start at 6. What time do Bellator prelims start?
7.
Casey's going to be at the Bellator fight, so it would be very difficult for him to be in the Q&A.
Yeah. So I probably would.
Should we StreamYard it again?
Or you have another person who knows how to run Q&As, and José Youngs.
Oh, all right. There we go.
But is he available though?
I don't know.
Yes, it's
You have to ask.
He's a
You
busy
have,
man.
to,
Well,
you have to ask nicely.
TBD.
All right.
TBD.
TBD.
All right, let's see what the peeps are saying.
What do we got here? We kind of talked about this. Oops, too small.
We'll live up to the hype. Hard to say, but I hope so.
One thing, I don't believe this is the biggest Bellator fight ever. I know that they're trying to promote it that way, but what I do think it is the biggest Bellator versus Bellator fighter they've ever done. And because we got Fedor, Rampage fights, all those other fighters, they kind of built their name in other promotions or whatever. This is a true Bellator versus Bellator fight, and I think if you and just promotional wise, two Bellator fighters with no UFC history or Pride history or whatever, it's easily by far the biggest ever they've done in that sense. So
This is bigger than Pitbull Chandler, champ.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think so because I think the hype that AJ McKee Jr. has, the fact that Chandler, because right now we have Pitbull. Well, I have Pitbull number 2 or 3. We all have Pitbull in our top 5, at least in featherweight rankings. Do any of us have Chandler in our top 5 lightweight rankings when that fight happened?
I think lightweight is a little more, especially at the time, was a little more stacked than featherweight. But I had him clearly in my top 10.
So, what I'm trying to say is, like, I think this fight in the overall grand scheme of the worldwide rankings, I think this is a higher ranking winner than the Chandler Pitbull.
When Chandler Pitbull fought, Tony Ferguson was still on that win streak, and Conor hadn't been submitted by Khabib yet. So I think just the lightweight division was completely different back then. Eddie Alvarez, I think, was still in the UFC, or had just left. He hadn't lost in one yet.
Yeah. Well, maybe this fight feels a little bigger too because I feel like the UFC featherweight division is because of COVID and injuries and tough now. Even though Volkanovski is the champ, there doesn't seem like if Max Holloway had continued to win, he was like the dominant dude. Then I feel like this fight wouldn't be as significant because right now I do feel like the number 1 featherweight title is still not. There's no one really wearing that crown. That's
Pitbull is also a champ. Like he's also the greatest fighter in the history of Bellator. And like we've said a million times, anytime the best in anything fights, and like anytime the best in any specific category fights, I'm gonna be It's a 10 out of 10 for me. And I think that Chandler Pitbull fight, I think McKee Pitbull in my mind is bigger, but Pitbull Chandler was for the best fighter in Bellator history, which was saying a lot because like Douglas Lima was on that card too. AJ McKee was on that card too. Hey, Bellator, that was a really good card. You should do that again.
That was a great card.
By the way, I just want to say
at that card.
I think Volkanovski, by the way, is the clear-cut number one fighter at 145.
Yeah,
so
me too,
maybe I'm in the minority here, but I
agree with you.
Doubt in my mind.
I'm on that train.
But I understand there is a lot of support behind the still on the Max Holloway train, of course. It's I don't know if it's the biggest. Definitely from a casual standpoint, we can probably point to a lot of other fights, anything with stuff like Chael Sonnen, Tito Ortiz, Rampage. I think from a casual standpoint, maybe bigger. Kimbo Slice, of course, Dada 5000 was not a main event, but there was no fight that was a bigger, like, just attraction.
Well, it's like I said on, I think I said
Fedor at MSG.
Side. Sure,
when
had a bigger feel to it. Yeah.
I said it on the A side, and I spoke with someone that works for Showtime at Bellator's, like, or he worked at one point for Showtime, or at some point, or not Showtime. Like he was just he knows like ratings and stuff, and he said that the Kimbo Slice Dada fight, Kimbo Slice Ken Shamrock fight is so on another planet than any other fight in Bellator history, that it's hard to even count when they do like averages, because it just skews everything.
Yeah.
Like it is like here, and then like the second biggest is like another Kimbo fight. Like Kimbo Slice is still the biggest star right now in Bellator history, and he's not even alive, which is wild to think about. Like, it is like Ken Shamrock and Kimbo, it did astronomical numbers, and like the same thing when Kimbo was on Tough. Like, they're still trying to catch that.
I feel like Connor's the same way in the UFC. He's just so far above any sort of ratings or pay-per-view buys that anyone
it's just
else.
Different because Kimbo was not the level of fighter of Connor.
Right.
But Kimbo was a gentleman, though.
Kimbo is one of the 10 greatest prize fighters in the history of MMA.
I'd say 5. Honestly, I'd go top 5 if we're talking like especially relative to,
sure,
like you said, sort of actual in cage or in ring accomplishments.
The only reason I don't put him number 5 is because it's hard to quantify him, because he never headlined in behind a paywall.
Yeah.
So I can't. It's hard, but like, I'm not going to argue it. But it's, in my mind, he's 10, just because I can't quantify how many pay-per-view buys he would sell.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
What else we got?
Good Kimbo tangent. Kimbo tangent.
I'll talk about Kimbo Slice whenever. Because like, with Kimbo Slice, Houston Alexander would probably have done a lot of pay-per-view buys, but I don't think he would have done a million.
And by the way, every time that UFC Fight Pass promo for the Kimbo Slice documentary comes up, I get ill, because it is such I'm sorry to go off on another even more tangent. It is such a rewriting of the history of how Dana White and the UFC handles Kimbo.
I refuse to watch it. I refuse to watch it.
I'm never going to watch it, because it's such and I'm glad they're paying homage to him. That's very cool. I'm not going to hate on that. But if people go back to like how Dana White and the UFC viewed Kimbo at the time, they did everything in their power to downplay him as a draw. As they're just like, no, we don't know who this guy is. No, he should go on The Ultimate Fighter. All this stuff. It was really bad, and I hate the retroactive history that they've created now, as if like, we respected it. He was a legend. We knew he was a legend from day one. It's like, stop. That's not how you guys handle this. Get out of here. Oh.
Have we seen the last of Nico Montano?
Yeah,
it has to be, right?
Yeah, and honestly, this might be for her own good. The pressures of being a UFC fighter, the schedule of whatever it takes to be a UFC fighter. She kind of touched upon it in the statement that she released. You guys can find that on MMAfighting.com. She released a statement via social media, and she didn't really go into super detail, but just saying like there's just the time off had kind of made it difficult for her body to cut weight. She has fought so infrequently over the years. This would have been her second fight since she won the Ultimate Fighter, which was almost 4 years ago. So she just can't cut weight. I'm sure I'm not making excuse for her. I'm sure there's other reasons. Again, there's other things, I'm sure, adjustments you can make, but she's had injury. She had COVID-19 last year. So a lot of stuff is going on with her. Maybe she needs a break from this competing at this level. I'd love to see you go back to the regional scene. I know the money's not the same, but I do think that there's still...
She ain't making no money now. Same.
Right? She's not fighting. So I do think that there's still promise with Nico Montano. I do think she could be a good fighter at 135 pounds. I think it's a very makeable weight for her. Maybe she just needs to step away from the UFC. So I'll say yes. I do think it's the last we see of her, and I say that as a positive in the UFC.
This is why I wish the Invicta UFC partnership still worked, because you could sign, like, you could keep her on contract but have her fight on, like, in front of, like, not as bright a spotlight. Like, you know, some of those Contender Series fighters are like tough fighters, like they clearly want them, but they sign like prospects. Like, remember Greg Hardy was technically signed but kept fighting on the regional scene.
Yeah,
Like,
the developmental contract.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Yes.
Like, just have Nico Montano. Because how many fights does he have total? Like, not a lot.
Less than 10.
Seven.
Like,
Yeah,
and
seven.
only two, maybe two in the UFC, 2 or 3. So
This
not
would've been
counting
a
the
third.
Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, so
not counting the Ultimate Fighter. One.
Yeah, 2, because she lost to.
Oh, you're counting the finale. Yes, yeah. Not the fights
so
on the show.
finale.
Yeah, no, not the fights on
So
the show.
it would have, like, if she could have gotten everything situated outside of the spotlight, it would have been great, because she's clearly a talented fighter. She's former UFC champion.
Yeah, and a great story. She's got a great story. I love.
Awesome.
There are not. Yeah, a native American star. She's very in touch with her heritage. It's such a great. I think I hate to make this all about marketing, but I do think it's a very it's a unique angle to come from, and that she could represent those people very well. So that was a really nice part of her story too. And again, it just sucks she can't get healthy and compete.
Representation is important in any aspect in life. So which is why it's just great.
Yep.
Yeah, but it sucks because unfortunately this is athletics, and if her body is just breaking down, it doesn't matter how nice she is or her backstory. If your body can't make it to that cage at that weight on that day, you're not a professional fighter anymore. And I shit on UFC a lot for the way they handle some things. I think Nico has gotten lots of fair treatment, at least in attempts to get her back into the cage. But the thing about every time Nico's body breaks down, it doesn't just screw Nico over; it screws over her opponent who did nothing wrong and just did their job. And that's actually the unfortunate part. It's actually I feel bad more for her opponent, honestly.
Didn't she fly over all the way from China too? Right?
Yeah,
It's a long flight not to fight.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can rebook Wu Yanan soon, and she doesn't have to fly back to China and do all this all and over again. And maybe hopefully stay in the U.S. for maybe another month, get a fight. Even that's tough. That's a hard thing to do.
And
that's not like a
because it's not just her; it's her coaches too. And they have it's like people. It's an individual sport, but it's not. They come over as a team, and it's just unfortunate. And I hope Nico fights. If she does fight, take 3 or 4 fights at 145 on the regional scene. Beat up some ladies at 145, and work your way back. That's all. Work your way back. A lot of fighters do. There's other organizations, but you're gonna have to put the work in on the regional scene for $500 a fight or whatever. And then, that's all.
She's only 32.
There's options.
She's only 32.
Yeah, there's options. There's options. That's the thing. There are
LFA. You can go to LFA. Titan FC.
Perfect for LFA. LFA would be such a great choice for her. Yeah.
If I at 145, so it was like no weight cut. So you're just in there. You'll get the experience. So hopefully you'll get those more W's on your record, and then and then win 3 times outside the organization, dude. Anthony Smith, he's like, look at Anthony Smith. Look at his records. He's gone up in and out organizations, and it's a roller coaster. This sport for fighters. So she's just obviously on the dip part right now.
All right, I'll take 2 more. And then we'll have lots more tomorrow. What'd you think of Cheyenne Bay's Media Day interview? Pretty harsh words about Saif Saud and Fortis. She said he would have pulled her from the fight.
Do we know anything about
that? He should have pulled her from the fight. I didn't watch it. I'll be honest.
I haven't watched. The Media Day was going on.
I know she's in Vegas now, but
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, we don't.
Scott, we'll look into that. Scott. We'll look into that.
Cheyenne Bay is also. Didn't she move to South Africa for her husband too? Wasn't she training there for a bit?
For JP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure. Did you?
Can the winner of Uriah versus Sean get a top 5 opponent next to the win? Both have won 4 of their last 5. Sean is 18-0 at middleweight. Could be a huge problem if he wins tomorrow. Top 5? I don't know. It's tough, man, because almost all those guys are booked. And
winner fights Luke Rockhold.
Exactly. That's the answer. That is the correct answer. The Luke Rockhold title is on the line.
I think so. Yeah.
Does he deserve? I guess he's still a bigger name than both those guys.
Yes,
That's fair to say.
he's a.
Yes.
100%.
Who is Luke Rockhold lost against?
Chris Weidman.
No.
Romero.
He beat Chris
No.
Weidman.
Oh no, he beat Chris Weidman.
Yeah,
Oh,
remember that he had the belt thing.
Romero.
Yoel Romero, Jan Blachowicz,
Jan Blachowicz, you know, Michael Bisping.
Michael Bisping.
So this whole like Luke Rockhold sucks, whatever. Chen's like, yeah, he's fighting the best of the best at their time, you know, at their primes too. Luke Rockhold does not suck.
Also,
Luke Rockhold.
I didn't say he sucked.
It's also all of those fights, if they run it back and Luke Rockhold his shin isn't like ripping apart mid-fight, because remember he was wearing that thing against Jan. He was not 100, even close to 100% for that fight.
Yeah.
And then Romero, he was supposed to fight Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker falls out, and Romero misses weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael Bisping, he took that fight on like 10 days' notice, and everyone knows he didn't take that fight seriously. Like if they run that back 1,000 times after that, I favor Luke Rockhold every time.
It goes like the first fight. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I still think Luke Rockhold is a top 5 middleweight in the world.
I did not know I was among the Luke Rockhold stands of the world. I stirred I stirred the beehive a couple times this week with some some spicy Conor McGregor and Darren Till tweets.
Oh yeah, your Darren Till tweet. I look at your Darren. I look at the replies on that. Like, woo.
We don't need to talk about that. But so I'll notice stay away from the Luke Rockhold high now. But you guys are right. No, you guys are right. He hasn't done anything like to egregiously lose his the luster around his name. Yeah. I do think that the middleweight has had a resurgence in the last couple of years. So for me, obviously, I would have a lot of guys ranked ahead of him, and I would like to see Uriah Hall or Sean Strickland get I know it's not going to happen, but like Apollo Costa or
Apollo's going to fight Marvin.
Yeah, or like again maybe the winner of that fight or a Derek Brunson. I think Derek Brunson's booked too, right?
He's fighting Darren Till.
He's fighting Darren Till. So I would like them to be in that mix. I would like that to me. I think makes a lot of sense. But I think either guy, as you suggested, would be more than happy if Luke Rockhold came back and accepted a fight with one of them. I think you're right. I think they'd be more than happy to take it.
Luke Rockhold, that's the answer. And the most important news of the week.
Thoughts on the retirement of the GOAT, Artem Lobov. Good for him, man. Good for him.
I'm pouring one out. All over myself.
That's not how it works.
That got weird. That got weird. I'm sorry. I ruined it.
Rewind.
Rewind. Count me in, Casey.
Okay.
Okay.
Going live in 3, 2, 1, and camera. Alex.
Thank you. So it's funny you asked that, Mike. Artem Lobov. No, for anyone who hasn't been following the sort of the recent going-ons of Artem Lobov, he did have what is apparently going to be his last fight. He fought a bare knuckle in Kiev, Ukraine, this past weekend against an Olympic silver medalist and an unbeaten pro in Denis Berinchyk. It went about as well as you would expect. Berinchyk pretty much dominated him before getting a stoppage in between the 4th and 5th rounds. And apparently afterwards, I was watching live, could not understand what they were saying. Artem suggested he was retiring. Later this week, we have confirmed it. I got a statement from his sort of the Paramatch, the sponsorship company he's been working with, and they got a statement from him. And yeah, he's just kind of ready to move on. He just from competition, it sounds like he still wants to be involved. I would think in maybe like helping to promote things with training. And I would wager he does want to fight again. But I think at this point in his life, he is worthy of a break. And he's going to have a strange legacy because there's all these jokes about him being the GOAT, and there's a huge cult following for him. But I think it's earned. I think he usually handles himself with quite a bit of class. In contrast to his good pal, Conor McGregor. They're very different personalities. And Artem has always been good for a quote, always been respectful to his opponents, and always fought tough guys like Michael Johnson's, the Cub Swansons. He's just he's one of those one-of-a-kind guys. You know, we talk about like a Kimbo Slice. We talk about guys like that. It's hard to explain their appeal. They have this it factor to them. It's not about wins and losses. and there will always be more guys like that, which I think is a good thing. But Artem is definitely one of those originals. And so whether you're a fan of his or not, I've definitely, I'm gonna I'll give him a hearty happy trails to Artem Lobov, and I'm glad he's getting out of there for now. Whether he comes back or not, at least take a break, because it's taken a lot of damage, bare knuckle and MMA, and he's carved a nice little niche for himself in the MMA universe. So good for him.
Well said.
Do you guys, if anyone doesn't know Artem's story pre-fight career, I highly suggest you go look into it. He has one of the most unique stories in the history of MMA. Fluent in Spanish. He's also a dad, and I believe I don't know if it's a son or a daughter. I think that there are at least two now. So maybe he's realized that his child is now approaching those formative years, and he doesn't want to take any more head trauma. So, but that's just my speculation. He's got punched a lot in the face. He's been cut a lot in the face. Knows 3 languages fluently. So, interesting cat.
Fun fact: Artem has more main events than Volkanovski and Aljamain Sterling.
That can't be true. That can't be true.
I think it is true.
It is. Swanson.
I wouldn't venture that's true.
And the Ultimate Fighter? That was the main event with Ryan Hall?
No.
So how does he have... What was the other...
What main events has Volkanovski fought in?
Oh, God. Wait, he has none?
None. So. All of his fights have been co-mains.
Oh, God. And Aljo has none.
Until his next fight.
Yeah.
This guy really is the GOAT.
Yeah.
It's not
really
just a
is.
meme. It's not. That blew my mind. Whoever left that comment, that blew my mind.
Yeah. Artem Lobov is the bravest man in the history of mixed martial arts to enter a cage with Ryan Hall.
Yes,
and survived. Was it 3 rounds? He survived 3 rounds,
which is like going 30 rounds with anyone else.
Yeah. I love Artem Lobov.
Well, of course, Ryan Hall got mentioned on one of these programs, and I think that's a perfect way to end it. Lots going on tomorrow. We got Bellator 263. We got UFC Vegas 33. And if you're looking for MMA tonight, XMMA is back with a free show on their YouTube page. A lot of recognizable names on this card. The main event is Ramsey Nijam versus Ben Saunders. Kyle Bochniak versus Marcus Brimage is the co-main event. Justin Scoggins versus Keith Richardson. Will Brooks is back against Steven Styler. Chris Curtis, who should have got a UFC contract on the Contender Series.
Mike, hold on a second, guys. Mike, ask me again, what's the best fight card of the weekend?
What's the best fight card of the weekend?
Well, it's funny you should say. There's a whole bunch of UFC cast-offs that people will remember tonight on XMMA. You should tune in. Better than both cards outside of one main event.
Yes, XMMA has. If you look past events, that's their niche. They sign a lot of ex-UFC guys. By the way, Mike.
Oh, I get it. XMMA. I get it. XMMA. I get it.
I did a poll. I threw a poll up in the YouTube. Who will win Bellator 263 main event? 59% Patricio Pitbull.
Wow. There you go. Cody Gibson and Kenny Robertson, former UFC cast-offs.
That's a fun card. Tonight. That's just a fun card.
Why are we not there covering?
And it's free. It's free.
Jump in the minivan. We're going to wherever it's at. See you there.
I believe it's in South Carolina. Greenville, South Carolina, folks. We're on our way. We'll see you tomorrow.